Oh. Hello. Wow.
Oh, should I continue?
Yeah, I'm admitting people, but it's such a pity.
Okay.
The conversation is so rich and so enlightening, really. And these but hopefully this is fixed. And, let me just allow the people to miss this. And also, I'm also at the same time trying to.
Oh God,
I think every. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I think we can go on. Just concluding on that question. Yes,
Yeah.
go on.
Yes, so I guess some amount of financial literacy and creating trust between the public sector and the private sector and the actual informal sector is a key piece in helping formalize the informal sector.
Mm.
I think I can end there.
Yeah.
Because trust in institutions is a key piece for people to engage government. And if you're paying your taxes and you don't know what they're doing with them, there is not that much motivation to pay. So if you can see in first world countries, people tell you, oh, I see my tax money because I have electricity 24 hours, my roads are good, there's clean water coming out from my taps. So when you know that you're paying and you're seeing where your money is going, that's trust for institutions also help people come into the formal sector and pay taxes. But then also there's the piece about how cumbersome that process is. So if you see countries that are making progress in like ease of doing business, they're doing a lot of digitization and reducing the amount of steps taken needed for a couple of accessing a couple of services from the government, especially like registration, business registration, paying taxes, accessing electricity. You hear countries talking about one-stop shop for paying taxes or one-stop shop for clearing your goods from the port. So even streamlining those processes and improving on the transparency in those processes, reducing the need for reducing human interaction or the need for humans to be subjective. So, because it's this person, you pay this amount and that. So reducing all of that also helps with like bringing more people from the informal sector into the formal sector and getting these systems to work to drive entrepreneurship and industrialization.
Sorry, that's really very, very well said. Thank you so much. And I think it's really clear that, you know, those high taxes are really jeopardizing the efforts of those entrepreneurs, because and there you tapped into, you know, the challenges that entrepreneurs are going through when it comes to industrialization, because sometimes you go around and you were just like, where are our entrepreneurs, where are our youth, when you have so much you know, waste that needs to be managed, and when we know that waste is money. But also, you know, if it seems as if the decision makers are favoring more foreign investors than local investors because of those high taxes and stuff, then it's really discouraging for those youth. So you nailed it very, very well, and I do think it also takes care of that challenge entrepreneurs have. And at the same time, I appreciate the fact that you dived into the role of private sector, the role of private sector when it comes to, you know, investing in our countries, and allowing those youth, you know, who have those great business ideas to really put it in into reality. That's great stuff. So I just wanted us to take a short break, if the host allows it. We have Malet Bundu, who would like to just share a short video with us of a great entrepreneur who is manufacturing textiles in Nigeria. Her name is Lucina Ibe, and is such a great lady who's doing amazing things that can inspire our African youth. Malet, up to you. Malet.
Okay, let me just share the screen.
So this is Ushena's, am I being heard? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, so this is Ushena's brand. It's Ivy League collections. You see these Africanas, you see the bed sheets, the, you know, the great, these furnitures and all are being made by her, not even buying the textile and making it, but she has factories that are making the textile, and she is also the designer who makes these great and like just unbelievable, you know, having our own African designs on her material. It's really something that is very inspiring, and that needs to be enabled and you know, to be supported by our leaders and decision makers. So we are going to have another video of her where you know, this her voice will be over it, and she will talk more about how she's doing it and her journey. I really like the African print. This is Lucina Ibe. Very warm colors and relaxing ones. Oh, I like this white and orange and white. And here she is with her staff members doing the great job that she can do. Uchena. Okay. Malet, can you full screen it?
Yeah.
you so much, Malet, for that great break. Thank you. Um, Thank you. So this is such an inspiring story of a Nigerian lady called Lucina Ibe. You can follow her on her socials that we will soon share here. So please, Malet, share her socials so that people can go and visit her Facebook page and her other social platforms to see the wonderful work she's doing. And this gives us, fresh air, just knowing that, some people have started in this journey, even with all the challenges that are related to finance, to accessing finance, to high taxes and enabling environment that are not always at the rendezvous. So there is a need for us to discuss so many other issues related to industrialization, one of which is like, the need for us to discuss clean energy and the fact that, doing this journey towards industrialization, it's our rainforest, it's our environment that also suffers. So how can we, mitigate those bad effects of let's say, or counter effects of industrialization? All those are issues we would need to talk about, but we cannot exhaust all the issues in this our conversation. And you can join the conversation on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, but also on Twitter on the hashtag Industrialized Africa, so that your voices will be heard, but also we will have more perspectives and we can, add more of the issues we would like to tackle today. So one thing I really would like us to talk about is the fact that, it seems that Africa really wants to position itself as just an enabler and an enricher. We enrich China. Everything we need, we just go, oh, China has it and we bring it. But then, how can we just like have people who, like Professor Njai or this great economist, Dr. Yakama, that we have among us. And still we have this malaria issue that is plaguing Africa mostly. And we're still waiting for Westerners to come up with the appropriate treatment for malaria, the same as sickle cell, because sickle cell mainly, let's say, is a Black people's disease. So we have those great immunologists, those experts in the medical field. Some of them are in the diaspora, but many are in our midst. And we would like to really call those who are in the diasporas to our lands, because this is where they're absolutely needed. But then to just come to the question is like, what are we lacking when we have those great experts, when we have the know-how and the knowledge that even other people are competing to get from us? So what is it that we need to focus on so that, let's say, African people are going to find the cure for malaria, sickle cell, even COVID-19? Yes, Professor? Professor, you were muted. You were muted.
Yeah. Okay, I'm muted now. And I would say, our challenge over the years, and consistent with my submission earlier, is that it is very hard for us to take off when we are trapped in the shackles and chains of dependency. And that dependency is in everything considered. It is, the economic dependency is one in which you will say, okay, we export some things, we import some things. Maybe there is a bi-directional flow there. We export our cocoa, maybe we get some chocolate. But the biggest dependency that is impacting us more than anything else is not just the academic dependency, it is the cultural dependency that has emanated by the way in which colonialism came into Africa and the way in which we've become mentally and psychologically, and at times even all of our systems have become just not different from the people, from the reality. There is a discordance or a disconnect between what we are learning in school and what is happening in our communities. So, for instance, for you to get to that level where myself and say Dr. Yakama here can be more effective in our societies, you must have developed a bulk. There must be a bulk, a lot of people who have the capacity and the skills that can support some of the efforts, some of the ideas, and some of the things that we want to do. For instance, when I in the US, I go to university. I finish and I start the job. I have there is a process where you can be supported to get your lab, and then there is also people you can easily collaborate with, work with, and students that are also getting that technical capacity to be able to apply some of those skills outside the classroom. So it's easier because there is a stronger university systems that have been developed in those societies to work for their societal problems. So if you imagine the great United States of America, or even England, or even China today and other countries, the biggest thing that is the fundamental platform for all these countries is the university. And there is a symbiotic relationship between the university and society. A university cannot develop a society on its own unless the society is first ready to develop a university. If the society is not ready to develop the university is functionless, cannot do anything. So many of us coming back, or many of us here in the country, find it very difficult. Look at COVID-19, look at Ebola, look at all the other issues. We've had over 60 years of independence now. In 60 years of independence, we are as dependent as ever. We in every sector you look at, it's in countries, and I'll talk about Sierra Leone because I want to limit it here rather than other countries. You think about running water, we are low. We, majority of population, over 60%, doesn't have access to clean drinking water. We have issues with healthcare. The healthcare is kind of the lowest in the world. Our educational sector is down and struggling. In fact, we are talking about digital age. We come with all these big buzzwords, while even the average student or the average lecturer in the university doesn't have a laptop or a computer. And we are talking about poverty today in 2020, 60 years after independence. We are talking about poverty alleviation in Africa. We've had programs like poverty something PRSP1, which was years back. In fact, before that, we had structural adjustment programs for poverty alleviation. We had PRSP1, we have had PRSP2. These are all programs from World Bank, IMF, and then we've had Millennium Development Goals from United Nations. Now we've gone to SDGs. We are still poor. And so this then brings me to the point that the existing models, whether it is educational models, whether it is economic models, whether it is STEM models, are still flawed. And we must, for us to develop a new Africa, to move towards a new Africa, to kind of change the trajectory of our cause, we must sit back, reflect, and then kind of develop a new African Renaissance. And that African Renaissance has to have an African languages at the center of it. And also, it has to have women, gender, leading it. Because it is very important. During colonialism did us a disservice with our women. The African traditional culture, many people actually mistake this nowadays. And in fact, now, the African culture has become a victim again of the Western colonialism, the way people perceive it. Oh, it's the African culture, they treat women like this. No, it wasn't the African culture. African cultures, traditional cultures, had equal things for women leaders, men leaders. Kings, the women, the queen, seated in their things. They had fewer even kings. They had very democratic system. Many of the African cultures did not exist with kings and all this other stuff. If you look at the Igbos in Nigeria, many other African ethnicities didn't have this. They have a very democratic structure. And also, it was the African mother. We were not sexualizing the woman at that point. It was the African mother at the center of everything. And that was the significant aspect of things. The women are the trustees of the language. So we cannot continue to thrive and develop and move and change the trajectory of things for Africa without, one, a scientific revolution that is accompanied by gender revolution, or a linguistic revolution also that is accompanied by gender revolution. Because if we need to do African languages, the people who are closer to it are actually the women too. I speak more of the languages that I've spoken, from Fula to Mandinka and other languages, because my mom, I spend more time with my mom, and she is patiently, speaking to us these languages at home. So this is a value we have to put in, rather than, you see, right now, all the models we are looking at are borrowed models. I go to University of Sierra Leone, to Frobe College, and I talk to these guys at the gender department. I said, why are you studying American gender models of America? This is not, they go through, I see final year students now, who don't even know anything about Madame Yoko, don't know anything about by Koblo Gulama, some of the great women of our countries. They have no ideas about women organized at leading traders and during the colonial period here in Freetown, the Fatmata Sankos, the Timini women traders, powerful women traders here in Freetown. So these are missing links in our knowledge-based system that has to be, developed. So right now, for me,
Professor, if I hear you well, the prerequisite is not yet met. We have not done our internal work before we open to the rest of the world, or we even aspire to, to solving those problems that are really intrinsic to our being, to our communities. So, and I really also know that this is something you hold, that something that you stand for, is like that sense of curiosity. Because when you're talking about being a student who's studying gender and never knowing about Mami Yoko and all these great figures you talked about, I do think it's about, stirring the curiosity of those students, because even at the heart of scientific discoveries is like not only the observation level or skills, but also that curiosity, that needs to be planted in or stirred in our youth, in our students, so as to just try and see problems, but not identify them as limiting problems, but as opportunities to bring solutions to communities. Yeah, so I just would like to hear what Dr. Yakama would like to add to that before we go to questions and answer session, as we are going over time right now.
Yeah, so I totally agree with everything Prof said. And usually when we're looking at growth dynamics, one of the things that we look at is what we call the sense of us. And this is what Prof is actually talking about. As Africans, do we have a really strong sense of us? So when we're even looking at countries like Rwanda, we hear they say they have a word, I think Ubuntu or something like that. Ubuntu, so that sense of us, so that sense of us is really critical, not only for, it's key for our growth and everything, because it has to do with you being a good citizen, having empathy, feeling that you should contribute to your nation's development, how you can play your own part. So definitely, we really need to develop a sense of us as Africans for us to have that unity, that strong force that holds us together, to be able to move together towards the future.
Great,
And,
very well said. Yeah.
if I can add something here, and just to be interesting, is that when you look at us here, I mean, myself and Dr. Yakama, imagine, okay, if we have one basic, the big ingredient that is missing in all of this process, if we have that operating in our society, which is the intellectualization of things, of all things. And because we have declined in that process, people like her are here, you know, from the university and government and myself, are not being fully utilized to bring in the whole, intellectualize all of this process. We need to begin to intellectualize even the little things, like COVID is going on right now. Who is documenting things? Who is looking at the impact on some women? Who is looking at the impact of COVID on children? What are they thinking? Who is looking at it from the African perspective? Who is looking at some psychosocial aspect? Who is looking out for traditional medical pharmaceutics that are effective, rather than we bashing them? We thinking we have to wait for the Western thinking. Who is, and where is the enabling environment then to kind of then support this? Is there like a head of state who says today, I'm going to sit and listen to Dr. Yakama Jones and Dr. Njai on this ignition hour talking about this important topic and intellectualize? Me, the head of state, sit down and then pose some questions and understand how do we move forward? And do we create that intellectual process where you are inviting Dr. Jones to Parliament to stand there and analyze these issues? And then, even though sometimes at great difference with the ruling government, you are not arrested or killed. It's an intellectual process. These are the processes now that are missing. And unless a society has that, you begin to fail. And Sierra Leone, we started failing when our president, Saka Stephen, for instance, was saying, when they say Bailobari, you say Professor Davidson Niku. That means when they say a rich man like Bailobari, you are talking about this educated professor, Professor Davidson Niku. So this is how we killed intellectualism. And so we now realize that how can we be competitive when we cannot offer something from our own? So everything that we learn about ourselves is now written by the Western trained guys who come and look at it, research it, and then put it in books and give it back to us, and we read it based on their own thinking and their own interpretation of things. You know, I mean, I go to Kabbalah, I mean, or in Guinea, and my families are spread around. And I cannot tell myself I'm an expert on any of the things right now, because I am Western trained and far detached from the cultural space. I mean, this weekend, the Eid, when I went to Kabbalah to stay Eid with my mom, I had a goat. And all I thought about was, I will kill the goat for myself and enjoy this whole goat. And my mom said, that's not going to happen. You know, that's not going to happen here. This goat is going to be communal. Everybody's going to get a little bit. This is the aspect we have lost. And so now we have strayed from this. We no longer know anything about ourselves. We are going to a system that we don't totally belong. They don't even totally think we are part of that system. Look at what is happening in America now with the blacks in America and all the killings going on in America. And we are now caught in this confused zone. And so the only way you remove the confusion is building the technical leadership and thought leadership, so that now you are offering ideas. Your knowledge-based system is being accepted globally, and you are publishing, just like China is doing, Korea is doing, and all these countries, India. You know, this is what is happening in these countries. And they are getting the global respect because they can now, you know, I mean, you can write in Urdu or Pashtun or Hindu and win a Nobel Prize, you know. But, you know, Wole Soyinka will never have won the Nobel Prize writing in Yoruba, even though Yoruba is a very powerful language, much more powerful than English language.
Yeah.
So these are the intellectual thinking that the African Union, African leaders begin to think what and how do we think differently as Africans, and begin to bring a different thing to the table that earns us global respect and makes it that wherever an African is around the world, he will be treated with respect, because you know what? Before you will see an Africa that is very different, an Africa that is powerful, an Africa that has, you know, a rich beliefs in their own systems. For now, we don't believe in our systems. We don't believe in our ideas. We don't believe in our models.
Thank
Look at
you so much.
COVID-19.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Professor. We are having, you know, a time constraint, and
Yes.
really, what you're saying is so inspiring. I'm reading somebody here saying, Professor Njai, you have really sparked something in me today. Leadership is a problem we face in Africa. The leadership here, I mean, is not just the political will, but the self-leadership in people, citizens, Africans themselves. So this is from Alpha Habib Bangura. So we had such a great discussion around this topic, and you know, it's not a topic that, as I said, we can exhaust within an hour. So please join the conversation on Twitter, following the hashtag Industrialized Africa, and I'm sure you will meet Professor Njai and Dr. Yakama Jones over there for us to continue the conversation. I would just like to, because of the interruptions, we did not quite have the rest of the first questions that was shared. So if some of the participants have questions, we can take it just for 10 minutes, or for those questions to be answered by our host, because once we are interrupted this time, time is running against our favor. So do we have any questions from the participants, please? Any questions? Malet, do you have some questions from your end?
Two people are raising hands.
Okay. Let me check. Who are they?
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Alpha.
Yeah, I'm calling in from Rwanda.
Okay.
My question is regarding education. So first of all, thank you to everybody for the contributions. They've been really inspiring. It's a short response, but I want both Professor Njai and Dr. Yakama Jones, my former lecturer, to like shed light on this. So in response to the topic, I thought of having my ideas shared to say, having a mission or purpose-based education built on the foundations of Pan-Africanism, 21st century skills, character, and values-driven leadership is one fundamental way that we can be able to institutionalize industrialization in Africa. So I would really love the two panelists to shed light on how that can be possible to strengthen the education sector to make sure that when students are in high school or in university, they have a mission, a life's purpose that they are embarking on to say, for example,
okay. Yeah, just shortly, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so to say, for example, if I'm studying economics, this is the purpose that I have. This is what I want to contribute to society. So for them to have a purpose-driven academic journey, how can that be structured?
Okay, understood. Thank you so much. Who was the second person who?
Hello?
Yeah, Ms. Larry.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Aminata, for this wonderful hour. There is a lot of constraints and price control system within the African countries. I want Dr. To tell me, Dr. Halaji, to tell me exactly how will the currency contribute to the development of African industry, since we are using different currency within the African countries.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Larry. Understood by our panelists. So, Dr. Yakama, Professor, please, can you attend to those questions shortly?
Okay, for the first question around focusing, getting students to have like a purpose when they study. So I think one of the things we all should be keen to do is how we can have a mix of entrepreneurship as a component, as a what's the word, a mandatory module that students should take. Because one of the things about entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurs are creating solutions for existing problems. So it's during courses like that that you can get a student to actually understand or start like channeling thoughts towards solving a problem that society is faced with. And one of the things I also want to point out is that mainstream formal education should also go side by side with entrepreneurship. So like for me, I always say I run a portfolio career. I teach, I work for government, but I also still do business because government cannot solve all the problems we face in society. It's entrepreneurs that identify problems and profile solutions. So either developing goods or services that will solve those problems. So I think if we have a piece of entrepreneurship mainstream throughout our education system, that would be a good step in helping us solve a lot of the problems we have in Africa. And as entrepreneurs, it's key things that we should look at is our abilities, our attitudes, and our aspirations. So we should always we should always try to think big and strive to achieve the big, the grand ideas. We should not limit ourselves, because one of the things that we're lacking in Sierra Leone is the ideation process. How many people have a sit down and think and say, oh, there's an opportunity for me to do business in this sector. There's a problem here. I think I can come up with an idea that can solve this problem. Because sometimes it's the value of your ideas and the solutions that you even need to take to banks, even though you don't have collateral, that help you get funding. So thinking with the mindset of solving problems is key. And then for the second question about currency and how that will help, did I get the question right about currency and how that can help with industrialization?
Yeah.
So when we look at currency, it's around how it's a medium of exchange. And though we're trading in different currencies, I think we have a lot of conversations going on about having a single currency. But before that works, we need to meet certain criteria to make sure that with like one country is not like lifting all the other countries, because we know economies are quite diverse. It's not like a straight line kind of process. They're so dynamic. So let's just look at what's happening for our West Africa single currency. We have all these prerequisites as convergence criteria. We need to have single digit inflation. We need to have fiscal deficits that's not more than 4% of GDP. Central bank deficit financing should not be more than 10% of the previous year's domestic revenue.
Sorry, we are having less than a minute. Hello. So I just would like to invite all of us.
Okay, Injai, Dr. Injai. So,
hello.
So for just one last thing. So for us to have.
Yeah, I'm just
yes, Dr. Injai.
Together for 10 minutes, let's say wrap up of the discussion, because we are going to be interrupted soon. Sorry for these interruptions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry for that.